wonderful YouTube family. Namaste, and I'm bowing to the love and the light in you, and there's love and light in each and every one of us. We just don't know that. And that's why so many of us struggle. So for those of you who don't know, welcome to my channel. My name is Lisa A. Romano, and I am the Breakthrough Life Coach, and I am committed to shifting the energies on this planet one mind at a time. And today what I want to do is I want to explain more in depth what I think is really preventing us as human beings from transforming our lives and what keeps us so stuck in modern therapies today. And I think it's the pain versus pleasure principle. Essentially, amongst other things, I think that we need to ascend out of our primitive brain. I think our primitive brain was great for when we were Neanderthals and we had to worry about saber-toothed tigers and, creating shelter, and the terrain that we were born into was such that we really needed to be on point, But most of us live, not all of us, but most of us live with running water, and we have homes, most of us, and we have cars, and we have techie gadgets like cell phones and washing machines, and we have inoculations, and we can get medicine when we get sick. And so we are not in a threatened, truly physically threatened state anymore. And I don't think our brains have really evolved to catch up to where we are today. That's just my opinion. So what I think will help all of us as we journey forward, trying to heal our childhood programming, especially those of us who have been raised by narcissistic parents who had no empathy for us as children. As we evolve and we begin to understand, we have to begin to understand the computer that is our brain. We have to understand that we are more subconscious or in the dark than we are in the light or conscious. And I believe that the way we get better is by becoming super, super conscious. So we have to be able to attach to this idea, this concept, that we have a higher self. We have an evolved state of consciousness. And for those of us who are super, super intelligent, it's rather difficult to sometimes move beyond what we think, because we think we're so smart, we know everything. And once you know everything, you're no longer teachable. You just can't teach somebody who thinks he or she knows everything. So I have learned to just not waste my time. So I'm hoping that who's ever listening to this video is just open. Now, I'm not saying I know everything. I'm extremely teachable. I say it all the time. If I can learn from a rock, I will watch a rock. And I have learned from a rock, because rocks really don't grow. But if you watch a tree, if you watch a bird, if you watch a caterpillar, now you're learning. If you listen to the wind, you're learning. So this pain versus pleasure principle is what I call, for lack of a better word, and there's probably a more scientific term for it, but I consider it a default setting, a genetic code, if you will, that has been programmed into our brain. So on a very simplistic, or the Reader's Digest version of the principle itself, is that my brain, your brain, our brain, the brain, has been wired to avoid pain. And it has been wired to seek pleasure. So that means that our brain is operating on its own. It's got its own system that's running all day, every day. Avoid pain, avoid pain, avoid pain, avoid pain, or avoid pain. And in psychological terms, if we think about the ego becomes hypervigilant when it has experienced a wound, because now the ego is scouring the environment hypervigilantly, if that's a word, I don't know, but this hypervigilance to my environment, I'm scanning, because there's a pain versus pleasure principle at play. And if you want to call it ego is now on guard looking for the next attack, because ego wants to avoid pain. And ego thinks, if I can catch the pain, if I can become aware of the cues, the body movements, the noises, whatever it is that's programmed into my brain, my amygdala, that has me associating pain with that thing. Could be if you were traumatized by your mother when she yelled, or if so many of my clients who had alcoholic parents, they're triggered by the sound of ice hitting a glass, because they knew ever since they're babies, maybe even in utero, that the ice hits the glass, clink, clink, clink. Here comes the vodka, and in just a few moments, mommy's going to be slurring her speech and kicking the shit out of one of us. So the brain is not wrong for downloading all that information, because those steps, the glass, the ice in the glass, the brain knows. The brain likes patterns. That's the way the brain works. So the brain has downloaded all these patterns. Now the brain knows what's going to come next. That's not the brain's fault. That's not the brain's fault that whenever, now that I'm 50 years old or 51 years old or 60 years old, and I'm at a party and I hear off in the distance, doesn't even have to be next to me, but I hear off in the distance ice hitting a glass, and now I have an emotional response, that's completely appropriate. That's the way the brain has been designed. And the brain is actually, again, running by this undercurrent, this pain versus pleasure principle: avoid pain, seek pleasure. And so when someone has an increased heart rate, or their palms begin to sweat because they hear ice hitting the side of a glass, the brain is really just running through its program. And the body is responding, because the brain is the central nervous system, and the body is wired to this motherboard. So, if I have a pattern that's stored in my amygdala, and I'm unaware of the trigger, and my body boom, 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 boom starts to react, and now here I am. Remember, the subconscious mind is darkness. And so consciously, I'm not aware that noise just triggered me. I don't know that. It's outside my conscious awareness. So now I'm starting to feel sweaty. I gotta get out of here. Start having a panic attack, and I don't know why. I go to the doctor. I don't know why. But I can't handle social situations. Whenever I'm at a party, I don't know, I just start freaking the hell out. Another client of mine got triggered every time she smelled alcohol in someone else's breath. She was okay drinking alcohol, but when she smelled alcohol on someone else's breath, and that was related to, and by the way, I have permission to use these scenarios because my clients believe in love and light. The ones that I've asked if I can, tell you these stories. I will not tell you their names, obviously, for obvious reasons, but I always ask, may I share this? Because this is such pertinent information, healing information. And when a client says yes, I do. Because it's going to help you, it's going to help me. It's going to help save the world by spreading love and light. So when we have anything that's unconscious, everything that is unconscious, we're 95% unconscious. I guess the jury's out. How the hell do you measure that? But let's just say, people, that across the board, it's pretty much accepted that we are highly unconscious. And that's okay, because we can become conscious, which is awesome, because we are more than our brains. We are consciousness, and consciousness is something that absolutely can evolve. That's awesome stuff. So if I have a trigger to ice hitting a glass, or the smell of alcohol, or the sound of a gun, or the perhaps certain body odor, if I have been molested by someone who was drinking and I was 3 or 4 and he or she had alcohol in their breath, and now every time I lean in to kiss someone hello and they have alcohol in their breath, my body bing, 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 the body is acting appropriately. So many of us who have social anxieties, could it be that we have social anxiety because we were humiliated in front of lots of people when we were children, or we felt abandoned in, a lot of, in our families, and now the idea of being around other people is terrifying? Could it be that we have social anxiety because we don't feel connected to and secure? It could be. So the pain versus pleasure principle, my take on it, and I'm interested in hearing what you have to say, is that it is a default setting of the brain. And it was desired to keep us safe. But as we evolve, it's 2016. As we evolve, we've got to start thinking outside of this primitive brain. And I believe that healing the shame and the guilt that is not ours is one way that we can begin accessing the subconscious mind. You see, shame is pain. And if the brain associates shame, which is pain, with looking into the subconscious mind, then we're never going to be able to access what's in the subconscious mind. And then all these lions and tigers and bears, oh my, that are in our subconscious mind, and for those of you who understand like energetic language, that are stored in our root chakra, all these wounds, these primitive wounds, very maternal wounds, all of these wounds that are locked inside of us, we can't access them because the brain is saying, nope, not going to go there, nope, not going to go there, not going there, not going there, can't go there, that's pain, that's pain, that's pain, bing, 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 bing. And our brain thinks, or ego, okay, I get a little fuzzy there myself because I understand on a physical level, the brain is trying to protect us. In psychological terms, I believe the ego is trying to protect us. Ego wants to look out there for, out there and sort of like stay on guard and protect people from seeing the wound. And sometimes in our denial of the wound, what we do is we project what is below us onto other people. So if I don't feel like I'm good enough, then I will say to people when they're just having a casual conversation and I'm not being included, I will hear myself saying, they don't think I'm enough. They're doing this because they don't like me. Now, that to me is a projection of what's going on below the surface. And it is a defense mechanism. But the problem is these defense mechanisms are keeping us stuck because the only way to get unstuck is to learn how to access the subconscious mind. And the only way to access the subconscious mind is to somehow bypass the pain versus pleasure principle. Because we've got to start healing the shame. Thank you, John Bradshaw, you're brilliant. I just like to take it just a little bit further. We've got to heal the pain versus pleasure principle in order for us to access the shame. And my coaching program, which is it's doing fabulous, if I do say so myself, it's a 12-week program. We are in week 3, and the members of the Facebook community, you can just see them evolving. It's just so wonderful. And the first 4 weeks are all about healing that shame, teaching people that it's not their fault. I just heard a psychologist, a psychiatrist, I have to check, but he used the term pin the tail on the donkey, which is so brilliant. So what I'm teaching people to do is pin the tail on the donkey. Who hurt you? Who hurt you? Why do you not love yourself? What connections did you deserve, did you not feel? Why does your brain feel and fear going within? Why? What's there? What are you afraid of? And when we help people understand that they're afraid of feeling, they don't feel like they're good enough, they do feel invisible. But my job as a coach is to be able to help these people, help you, help all of us, as many people who are on this journey, truth seekers, help people understand that the exact shame that you're afraid of facing is not your shame. And when people come to the realization that, oh, wait a minute, I have shame in me because I don't feel like I'm good enough. But A, it's not true, I am good enough. I'm made of stardust. I was born an innocent, divine human being. There was nothing wrong with me. Who I became is very much tied to my environment, my situation, and the people who downloaded me with their information. My beliefs, my religion, my ideas, my identity about self, it's all been downloaded. So my shame is not me. And that helps alleviate the fear of looking at the I am not enough. Now, a big part of healing is jumping into I'm not enough. Meaning, not that you aren't enough, but we jump into it by saying we have to feel it. We have to merge with the child's experience of, wow, I really felt like I wasn't enough. I wrote my book, The Road Back to Me, through my child's experience to trigger you into its readers, into anyone, you, the readers, whatever. To trigger people's memories, like, wow, I remember feeling that way. Because feeling is the key. Because when we feel, we merge between the conscious and the subconscious mind. And this journey is very much happening totally in the skull. Like we are being reborn in the skull. We are being reborn to our identity. We are being born again in a new identity, of a new mind. And the kind of work that I do literally transforms the brain, the landscape of the brain. And it's a miraculous journey. So I just hope that this video helps those of you who would really like to understand the premise of my work a little bit deeper. Because I think that the more cognitive you become of what's going on in the brain, the more cognitive you become about what happened and why you feel the way you feel, the more cognitive you become about the abuse. Now, this is the other issue. If you grew up in an abusive home, that became your norm. You don't know that it's not okay to be pushed around and harassed by a spouse. You don't know that having someone slam a door in your face is dysfunctional. You don't know that when your husband or your wife says, oh, you're just being a baby, you're such a pain in the ass, all you do is talk about your feelings. You know, you only care, you know, you're so sensitive. All you care about is the way I speak to you. Why do you care? I show up, don't I? You know, what more do you want from me? You're healthy. We have 3 kids. We have 4 kids. You're healthy. I don't drink. I don't do drugs. You know, I don't bother you. That's abusive. That is totally abusive. That is minimizing your experience. That's saying you should be married. You should be able to be married to a couch and be happy. You know, when you're married to somebody who's minimizing your desire to connect to them, that's abusive. But when you've been pushed away, I have bang issues, dear one. I'm so sorry. And actually, someone just wrote me recently and told me, Lisa, you got bang issues. Yes, I have bang issues, dear one. I digress. I'm sorry. But anyway, dear ones, the goal is to figure out what went wrong and to understand that we were supposed to have a divine connection. And in that space, when our umbilical cords to our mothers was had, and if you had a dysfunctional mom, a big space got created between you and this person that you were connected to, that you were supposed to be divinely connected to. Now, outside of cognition, you didn't have words for that space, but your being and your brain felt that space. And that's traumatizing because it's not natural. It's not organic. In other words, that's not the way it was supposed to be. If you look into nature, you look at monkeys, they want to be next to their mommies. You look at kangaroos, mommies. You look at cubs, mommies. You look almost everywhere in nature, not everywhere. Fish are certainly not that way, not all of them, but if you look at mammals, very much they want to be with their mommies. And so when we have this disconnection, this attachment trauma, there is great pain associated with the disconnect. But we're outside of cognition. We don't have words. We don't have verbal language for that space. We just feel fearful. We just feel terrified. We just feel unsafe. We feel disconnected. We don't have a word for it. And then as we get older, we hear words like bad, 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 no good. And now we start, in my opinion, putting words to this feeling of disconnect, this feeling of attachment trauma. And that just sets the groundwork for so much of our life. So we have to heal the attachment trauma. But in order to heal an attachment trauma, we've got to get past the pain versus pleasure principle. We've got to get past our brain's desire to keep us safe because it thinks it's keeping us safe by not going into that space. And so, you know, I hope my YouTube videos, I've got 220 plus YouTube videos. I've got a bunch of meditations here and on Insight Timer. I have a website at lisaaramano.com that you can visit to keep expanding your mind, to help you heal your shame so you can access where you need to go. I've created a coaching program, and now I'm even, for members that want to heal, but now I'm even creating a coaching program for coaches and psychologists who are interested in learning about the reasoning behind the way I teach and the way I coach. And so one by one, we're lighting this planet up with higher realms of thinking, higher cognition, and gaining more awareness into the way not only the mind works, but the way the subconscious mind works, and getting a grip on this childhood programming, and then understanding the default settings like the pain versus pleasure principle that are running in the background. And it's just such a wonderful, wonderful journey when, you know, you realize that you are not your brain, you know, and you are not your programs. I did a private meditation earlier with a client this morning who's just awesome, and I had him imagine that his brain, it sounds a little weird, bear with me, dear ones, it's just a visual to help your brain, because your brain needs pictures. Your brain, a picture really is worth a thousand words. So, oh, my puppy's sleeping. I don't know if you can hear her. She's dreaming. Oh, Alice, Alice. Here she comes. It's okay, Mama. It's okay. Here she comes. Here she comes. Come here. Say hello to everybody. Come up. Come up. Come here. No? Okay, she might not jump up here. So I had my client who was struggling a little bit today with trying to understand how his brain worked and separate these different ideas, because it's very abstract. And when we use images and meditations, it helps the brain organize these thoughts. And there's so many reasons why, because there's no such thing as time and there's no such thing as space. And we exist on multidimensional planes. We think, you see me sitting in my kitchen area and the fish tank's behind me, and you think I'm here. But I'm vibrational, so I'm really everywhere. I'm really everywhere. I'm consciousness. So I can be talking to you in this video, and I could be thinking about something that happened to me when I'm 3. Or I could be thinking about something that I would like to happen, a year from now or 6 months from now. And so where am I really? I'm everywhere, but the brain is subject to the laws of time and space, and the brain is always trying to make you feel really, really solid, because that's the way it's able to animate the body in time and space. The brain needs to know what's a wall, what's an apple, what's solid, who am I? Who am I? What are you? What am I? The brain is constantly trying to label things so that it can exist in this reality, in this time-space reality. So it's important that you understand that. Now, what we did with my client this morning was I had him imagine that his brain was in a jar and it was on the table. And I know it sounds gross, but just bear with me. And then I imagined him, I asked him to imagine himself being 6 foot tall, 7 feet tall, 10 foot tall, 11 foot, 12, 13, 14, 20 feet tall. And now he's looking down at this brain in a jar. And then we went through a meditation where I am not my brain. 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 My brain is not me. I am not my programs. I am consciousness. I am expansive. And I need to learn how to work this brain. I'm going to learn how to override these programs and create new programs. I am the master of the programs. I am the new orchestrator of all that is. And it worked brilliantly. So I hope these ideas that I've shared with you today help you become more cognitive and help you move out of your skull and your box idea of who you are and what you are. You are not your brain. You are not your childhood programming. You are not your pain versus pleasure principle. You are not the default settings of the brain. You are so much more than that. And for those of you who struggle with the idea of being energetic or a soul, I know a lot of the people that I work with who are in the healing community, like psychologists and psychiatrists, they struggle with this terminology. And of course, I understand it. So what I suggest that you do is you think consciousness, think outside. That you can, in other words, like some people will connect to the idea that they're spiritual and are energetic. That's fine with me. I can see myself as spiritual, energetic, and conscious at the same time, as well as physical. That doesn't really bother me at all. At all. I know that I can look at a tree and know that a tree exists vibrationally, but I also understand that there's a consciousness that this tree is aware of. Otherwise, the tree wouldn't know when to go to sleep and when the hell to wake up. It wouldn't. It wouldn't know what elements and minerals below the soil to attract unto itself. It just wouldn't. I know that there's an intelligence that is keeping all that is in sync. Otherwise, birds wouldn't know to fly south for the winter. Salmon wouldn't know to swim upstream. Bears wouldn't know when to migrate. There's an absolute, Max Planck calls it the field, but there's an absolute divine matrix of intelligence that we as vibrational human beings, there's Alice, hello, that we are all a part of. And the more aware that you become of this divine intelligence, the more you're going to expand outside of the childhood programmings and the pain versus pleasure principle that may be holding you back, dear ones. So namaste to all of you. I bow to the love and the light in you. And know this, every cell of your being mirrors the universe. If you were to look at every atom of your being, it would look just like our solar system. It would have a nucleus, it would have planets, and it's going to spin just like our existence does. So our reality does, our universe does, our solar system does. The planets revolve around the sun. You know, every cell in your being mimics what's happening in the stars. You are so much more than you think you are. You are not your childhood program, dear one. And I will say it, it is not you, it's your programming. And today, again, I bow to the love and light in you. Until next time, namaste.